our minds and make us all think. And today we got a topic to talk about. We are talking about that I am that I am. The truth beyond external validation. Welcome in, first of all, everyone. It doesn't matter what time it is that you're catching this, it's meant for you right now. You designed this to happen. So take a breath. Let's just let ourselves arrive right here where you are right now. And you got nothing to prove right now. You do not have to be more spiritual than you are right now. You do not even have to be all the answers, and you do not have to perfectly be healed. You do not have to know exactly where you're even going. Just be here. Sit in. Listen. Pay attention. See, you only have to become still enough to hear what has always been beneath the noise. And this morning, we're going deeper into that mirror. In the last teachings, we stood before the mirror and we asked this question: who is looking back at me? We asked who we are beneath the labels, who we were beneath the trauma, beneath the family roles, beneath the titles, the bodies, the names, the success, the failures, and the opinions of even others. But right now, we go one layer deeper. Because after you begin to remove labels, there's still something that remains. And after you remove roles, something remains. And after you remove the story, something remains. And after you remove the fear, still something remains. And that something is the simplest truth you will ever know. It is not complicated at all. And it's not hidden in a building, and it is not in a religion. It's not because you said some sacred prayer. It is not something another person can even give you. It is not something you even have to earn. Yo, how's it going, brother? And it is not something you have to travel across the globe and the world to go to some expensive existence of conference or whatever the heck. It's right here. Yo, American Stoner, how's it going? Dude, I'm close to where you're at. I did give you a message. Anyways, it's just one truth. And here it is. And I want you to try this. I want you to say this and don't add anything else to it. I am. I am. Not I am not good enough. Not I am successful. Not I am accepted. Not I am chosen. I am better. I am healed. I am perfect. Just I am. And that may sound simple. See, the world has trained us not to stop. The world has trained us not to stop there. The world's trained us to finish these sentences nonstop all the time. I'm not enough. I'm too much. I'm broken. I'm rejected. I am my past. I am this. One day I will be. I am the things that happened to me. I am the mistakes I made. I am my mother said. I am what my father said. I am what the church said. I am what my partner said. I am what the world says I am. And where do we take the most sacred truth of our existence? I am. And we attach it to fear. We attach it to shame. We attach it to performance. We attach it to a role. We attach it to a box. We attach it to the identity that may have never actually belonged to us. This morning, we're going to practice stopping before the false sentence even go further. We're going to practice returning to what is underneath the roles and the bullshit that we decided to believe. We are going to practice coming back to the original design, the blueprint of our designs, the truth. The truth before the fear, the truth before the programming, the truth before the world told you that you had to earn your right to even exist. And that truth is, I am. Just take a breath with me and just say, I am. And don't add anything to it. Just let it sit. I am. And be here. See, you are here, you are breathing, you are aware, you are listening, you exist before anyone agrees with you, you exist. Thanks, man. Before anyone proves of you, you exist. Before anyone understands you, you exist. Before you achieve anything, you exist. Before you earn anything, you exist. Before you become any or what someone else wants you to become, you exist. And that is enough to begin. We live in a world that teaches us to look outside of ourselves. From the time we are children, we are trained to look outside and outward. We look outward for approval. We look outward for love. We look outward for identity. We look outward for safety. We look outward for value. We look outward for truth. We look outward for someone who tells us that we matter. And we look outward for someone to tell us we are doing life correctly. And we look outward for someone to tell us we are beautiful. We look outward for someone to tell us that we are accepted and acceptable. And we look outward for someone to tell us that our pain means something. And there is nothing wrong with wanting connection. There is nothing wrong with wanting to be seen. We are human beings. We are made for relationship. We are made for community. We are made for love. But there is a difference between receiving love and handing over the entire identity exchange for acceptance. See, there's a difference in being part of a community and becoming afraid to be yourself inside of it. And there is a difference between listening to guidance and giving someone else authority over your soul. There is a difference between being loved and performing for love. And so many people confuse performance with love. They think if I become who they want me to be, then I will be finally safe. And if I say the right things, then I will finally be accepted. And if I work hard enough, then I will finally be worthy. And if I become attractive enough, spiritual enough, successful enough, religious enough, rich enough, quiet enough, useful enough, healed enough, then I will finally be loved. But that's BS. The deeper truth is this. And if someone can only love you when you are performing, they are not loving you at all. If they are loving the version of you that makes them comfortable, then they don't love you. And many of us learned early in life that being ourselves was dangerous. You know, maybe being yourself led to criticism. Maybe being yourself led to rejection. Maybe being yourself led to punishment. Maybe being yourself made people uncomfortable. Maybe you were too sensitive for a family that did not know how to feel. You know, maybe you were too honest for a system built on pretending. Maybe you were too different for a world that needed everyone to fit in. And maybe you were too awake for people who were comfortable staying asleep. And so you learned to hide. You learned to bend, you learned to perform, you learned to become the version of yourself that got the least rejectable. But even if that version of you was accepted, something inside of you knew you weren't fully accepted, because something inside of you knew that you were disappearing. Something inside of you knew that you were leaving yourself behind. Something inside of you knew that you were being rewarded for being false. And eventually that creates exhaustion. It creates anxiety. It creates depression. It creates resentment. And it creates a life where you are surrounded by, you still feel alone, because the people that are there, you don't know them, they don't know you, because no one can truly know you if you are always presenting a mask and pretending to be something you are not. And no amount of applause can heal the pain of abandoning your own self. Let that land for a moment. No amount of applause can heal the pain of abandoning yourself. You can have followers and friends and money and partners and job titles, and you can have all the people praising you, and you're going to still feel empty at the end of the day because you are not being who you really are. You're hiding. And when the comments stop, you're still left with yourself. And when the relationships change, you are still left with yourself. And when the job ends, you are still left with yourself. And when the body changes, you are still left with yourself. And when the role falls away, you are still left with yourself. And that is not something to fear. That is the doorway, because the self you are left with beneath all the roles is not empty. The self you are left with beneath the performance is not broken. The self you are left with beneath the masks is not nothing. It is awareness. It is presence. It is the part of you that is able to witness the whole story. It is the part of you that has been there before every chapter. It is the part of you that says, I am. And you think about the roles you have played in your life. Maybe you played the role of the good child. Maybe you played the role of the bad child. Maybe you were the peacekeeper. Maybe you were the responsible one. Maybe you were the caretaker. Maybe you're the one that helped when anyone needed anything. Maybe you were the one who hid and didn't do anything wrong. Maybe you were the rebel. Maybe you were the religious one. And maybe you were the strong one. Maybe you were the one that was the fixer and the entertainer. There were your strategies to survive. They were ways to receive attention, safety, belonging, or love. But the role is not a soul. A role is not the totality of your being. And when a career ends, a person can feel like they no longer know who they are because they've been hiding underneath their career. And when a relationship ends, someone can feel as if they lost themselves. And when the body becomes sick, a person can feel like they are no longer themselves. I know I've been through those things. And when religion changes, a person can feel afraid because the entire identity they've built is shifting. And they've lost the friends that they once had because they've shifted their opinions and ideas. What if the role leaving is an invitation to meeting yourself beneath it all? What if the identity change is not proof that you are lost, but what if it is proof that you are growing? But what if, because life is always asking us to let go of something. Life has always been asking us to release a version of ourselves. For instance, the child became the teenager became the adult became someone else, and again, and the roles change. The relationships change. The thoughts change. The seasons change. And if you try to hold every version of yourself forever, you will suffer. But if you begin to understand that change is part of life, and you can start asking the better questions, not how do I make sure nothing ever changes, but this, what remains in me when everything changes? The answer is not your job. The answer is not your image. The answer is not your opinion of people. The answer is not your role. The answer is none of those things. The only thing is this: I am. So much of our suffering comes from trying to control what we cannot control. We want to control what people say about us. We want to control the people and how they see our hearts. We want to control the people about how they believe the truth about us, or how they speak about us, or how they apologize to us, or project their pain onto us. And the world is not fair. And people are going to misunderstand you. Sometimes they'll project onto you. Sometimes they will even make you the villain. And sometimes they will call you selfish. Because you created a boundary. And sometimes they'll call you arrogant when you stop begging to be accepted. Sometimes they'll judge you because the freedom makes them question their own cage that they've got them locked in. You cannot control other people's reactions. You cannot control their wounds. You cannot control whether you become dishonest because the world was dishonest to you. You can control that. And you can control whether you become cruel. You can control how you decide to respond. You can control whether you decide to care or not about what their opinions are. You can control whether you live from truth or reaction. And that is the spiritual maturity begins, because spiritual maturity is not trying to control the outside world. Spiritual maturity is learning to live from the inside without becoming disconnected from the world. It is walking in truth without needing everyone to agree with you. It is having boundaries without needing revenge. It is seeing justice without becoming consumed by hatred. It is loving people without becoming dependent on their approval. And it is recognizing when someone is projecting without trying to rescue them from themselves. It is saying, I cannot control your story about me, but I can be honest in my life and in the life I am living. And that is the truth. I cannot control your story about me, but I can be honest in the life I am living. And now that does not mean you do not take accountability. It does not mean, if we hurt someone, we take accountability. That's important. And if we are wrong, we apologize. If we are acting from our wounds, we can do the inner work to shift ourselves. But if we do not have to take responsibility for every emotions and other people's reactions and feel, how other people feel, and this is not saying that I'm better than you. Discernment says this is not safe for me. Judgment says you are beneath me. Discernment says I can love you and still choose to be distanced from you. It means I don't need to control you. I can forgive you without inviting you back into the same place. I can walk away without hatred. For many people, religion has taught them to look outward to everything. Look outside for yourself for God. Look outside yourself for permission. Look outside yourself for salvation. Look outside yourself for worth. Look outside yourself for truth. Look outside yourself for someone else to tell you if you are good enough. And there is a danger in that. Because when a person believes God only somewhere outside of them, far away, distant, angry, schizophrenic, impossible to reach, then they may spend their entire life feeling separated. There may be, they may spend their entire life trying to earn something that was never meant to be earned. They may spend their entire life being afraid that they are not worthy enough to be approached by the divine. But what if the sacred was never separate from you? What if the breath beneath your lungs is already evidence that life is moving through you? What if the deepest spiritual teaching was never that you must become terrified in order to be saved? You got to say some sacred prayer in order to be saved. What if the deepest spiritual teaching was that you have forgotten the divine reality that is already within you and among us? And now, why you want to save some clarity is, I'm not saying spirituality means there is no ethics. I am not saying everything is divine, gives permission to harm people. I am not saying people should become arrogant or act like they are above consequences. No. See, the deeper thing is this, is you go into truth. The more responsibility you carry, the more truth you go into, the more responsibility carries, because the more you recognize your connection to life, the less you want to harm in life itself. The more you recognize that another person carries breath, pain, fear, longing, and awareness just as you do, the harder it becomes to treat them any less than a human being. So I am is not an ego thing. I am is humility. It is recognizing that the same mystery that moves through me moves through you. The same life that breathes in me breathes in you. The same awareness that knows joy and suffering is present in every single human being, even when we are divided by language, culture, religion, and politics, trauma, and fear. And this is why so many ancient spiritual traditions point inward. Not inward as in selfish, inward as in honest, inward as in know thyself, know yourself, watch your thoughts, examine your heart, and become aware. See the kingdom that is near. Stop seeking some outside what must be discovered, what is inside. There is a saying attributed that Yeshua said, is Luke, was that it's been translated in many different ways, but the kingdom is within you. And the invitation is profound. See, the kingdom is not only it's not about some far off place, it belonging to someone else. It is something near, present, inward. See, even in the Gospel of Thomas contains other mystical teachings describe the kingdom as inside you, outside of you. That does not mean you have to belong to a certain religion to understand this. It means the search for truth cannot remain only, it's not some external thing to go find. The truth is within. It is not in a building. It is not in a teacher. It is not in a ritual. It's not in a pastor. It is not, those things can help you. They can point, they can guide. They can inspire, but the finger pointing at the moon is not the moon. The teacher can point, the scripture can point, the ritual can point, the nature can point, pain can point, love can point, but eventually you must become quiet enough to meet the real truth directly face to face. You must become still enough to ask, who am I when no one is telling me who I am? And then you must be brave enough to listen. Why the internal journey is the great discoverer of humanity. We have explored the sky. We have explored the ocean. We have built machines. We have built religion. We have built systems. We have built identities. We have explored the external world in so many ways, and yet so many people do not know themselves. They know how to work. They know how to perform, they know how to please others, and they know how to survive, and they know how to react, and they know how to scroll, but they do not, they're so distracted, they do not know how to sit in silence with themselves. The inward journey is not escaping the world. It is becoming big enough to walk through the world without constantly being controlled by it. You are, I am that I am. That's the real truth.